Hi, this is Kevin with Words of the Witches. I just wanted to put a disclaimer out there before we start the episode that the audio on here on my end is going to be a little rough in places, a little rocky. This was actually my first time producing a podcast, and I'm still working out the kinks, still learning. I think James did a really great job, and I still think this episode is really great. So if you think you can handle some audio issues here and there, I promise I'll do better next time. Enjoy the show.
You haven't even read that?
Wait, what are you doing with the book?
So he has the confidence to finish the story.
Hear now the words of the witches.
This is Kevin, and welcome to Words of the Witches, the Charmed podcast that will guide you through the lesser-known published material in the Charmed universe and decide how it fits into the grand narrative of the TV series. Words of the Witches. This is our episode 1. We will be covering the book, The Power of Three. I do have a guest with me today. This is Jaymes Mansfield. Hello.
Hello, everybody. My voice is a little different today.
Yes.
I figured we're doing with enough witchcraft and like otherworldly stuff that we don't need the really high voice today.
So I'm going, since it's the first episode, I'm going to give a little bit of my credentials with Charmed. I started watching when I was 10 years old. In 1998, when it premiered, I saw every episode on the original air date. And then I made a Charmed fan site called Charmed Obsessed, which was pretty popular on GeoCities at the time. And yeah, I've just been crazy and collecting it and obsessing for years and years and years.
An all-around Charmed super freak. I remember when you had the little homemade Book of Shadow.
Yes. I had like a little journal because, our great Catholic upbringing. I met you when you were like 8, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I had my little journal and I had all the fans in school sign their name. That was fun. And I wanted to go over the cover art for the podcast because I actually had that commissioned for one of my gym shirts. I had all the outfits picked out from each of the episodes, and I had using my powers for personal gains. So that was fun. And then I commissioned that, but now I decided to use it for this as well. And then that was by Terry Blas. And then my friend Gerardo, or call me Jairus, I can't say, on Instagram made the whole fancy version. So I wanted to shout them out a little bit. Okay, so first we're gonna talk about James for a while. You went to Vegas recently. How was that?
It was fantastic. I was completely safe. I stayed indoors the whole time, celebrated a nice, quiet birthday in the home with my family. It was nice.
Oh, good.
Moved some stuff over there because I'm going to be permanently over there
Yeah,
pretty
you're
soon.
moving. That's in May, right?
That's in May. Near the middle to end of May, I will be a resident of Las Vegas.
Ooh, that's exciting. I have to come visit.
Absolutely.
And you had a birthday too recently.
Yes, I recently turned 31. Yes, so that happened. We're moving past it. It's in the books.
So what is your relationship with Charmed? Like, what's your
Well, I remember I
experience
was
with the show?
really, really into it when I was younger, and I know a lot of the mythology of it because, like, a lot of that stuff just kind of sticks in your brain from childhood, like those things you were obsessive over. So I know a lot of stuff from like season 2 about to where Rose McGowan joined, and then I kind of fell off after a certain point because I was a teenager and I had other interests and I wasn't watching a whole lot of television. So, but I know enough. I had never seen the pilot episodes, so this is going to be an interesting experience for me. I will say that.
Yeah, that's exciting because I thought you have. So I'm like, oh, you're gonna see it for the first time. Yeah, you cheated. You didn't read the book, but that's okay. I'll forgive you. It's pretty much the same. This book, The Power of Three, is essentially a novelization of the first episode, Something Wicca This Way Comes. And so there's some differences in there, but we'll explore those as we go. Let's see what's next on my agenda. I did have a question that's from someone. They wanted to know, have you ever dabbled in magic? My friend Sean asked.
Boy, I remember when I was in high school. It's so embarrassing to talk about. I had I had a phase. It was a very, very short-lived phase, but I remember a friend of mine gave me that book, Teen Witch or something by Silver Ravenwolf. It's such bull. Like, oh my god, I looked through it like it's so lame. Like, what the heck? A lot of the spells in there. I had tarot cards as well, which I could have swore I was, a psychic, but no, I don't possess that power.
Funny. I think I gave that Teen Witch book to Goodwill now that I think about
You
it.
didn't use that spell for good homework?
Oh man, good stuff. Uh, okay. I will. Let's see. I guess we'll dive right into the book then. Uh, this is called The Power 3. The cover is a standard season 1 promo picture. It was used for the pilot and the first season in general. Has the tagline, "Being enchanted has its price." And I'm going to read the
Oh, I
back of the
love it.
book
Let's
for
hear
you.
it.
"In this night and at this hour." Oh, that's wrong. Oh,
Uh-oh.
"In this night and in this hour" is the book. They messed it up. But it says "at this hour" on the book. "I call upon the ancient power. Bring your powers to we sisters three. We want the power. Give us the power." And then it says, "Prue, Piper, and Phoebe Hallowell didn't think reading a magical incantation would really work, but it did. Now Prue can move things with her mind, Piper can freeze time, and Phoebe can see the future. They are the charmed ones, the most powerful of witches. But being enchanted has a price. There's a warlock who wants to steal their powers, and he'll do it any way he can, even if it means killing
Even
them."
if it means murder.
Murder!
Now, is this book still in print? Something tells
All
me it's
right.
not in print anymore.
No, no. You have to go and on eBay and find the old ones. And I wanted to give the author and the publishing date. Let me get that for you. I'm so disorganized today. Oh. All right, so this was written by Eliza Willard, but the teleplay was written by Constance M. Burge, and a lot of the dialogue is the same. It was published November 1st, 1999, so about a year after the show first aired, and there was a publication, a reprint on
So
July
I would have
third,
been 9 years
2000.
old. That would have made you.
I was 11.
Wow, okay.
Mhm. I was 10 when it started, barely, and then at the end of the month I turned 11. So do you want to start? 'Cause the first scene is pretty much exactly the same as the show.
Yeah, I mean, the opening was actually kind of nice. It's like a little spooky setting with like a blonde woman setting up her little altar and she is lighting the candles with her fingers, a la like practical magic. Very much that kind of jet vibe. She has very, very 90s blonde hair. I couldn't take my eyes off how it was like so like free but didn't move.
Her name is Serena. They don't tell you that in the show, but she has a name named Serena.
Oh, okay. Well, good going, Miss Serena. I thought it was interesting because, like, someone sneaks into her house. They're in like a duster in the middle of a rainstorm, and they're creeping up behind her. And she turns around, and she's not immediately furious. This person tracked water into her house, and it seemed like she may have known who they were. And
Right.
then they played stabby stab with her, and that was the end of Serena.
End of Serena, yes. And that is exactly what happened in the book, so we're still on the same page there. Then we had uh, Piper coming home to the manor to see Prue working on the chandelier. She was supposed to be there for the electrician, but was in Chinatown getting some ingredients for her addition recipe at a new restaurant. And she does get some roses and port from her boyfriend Jeremy. This is something that's different. In the book, he comes and he hand delivers them. He comes to the door and gives them to her. In the show, it's just there, kind of there. Uh, but yeah, and then they say this is the perfect ingredient for my recipe, and yeah, so she gets her port, and then she notices the spirit board, and then the spirit they talk about it like that's our old spirit board from when we were kids. Says the power through will set you free, love, mom, and uh, and then they walk away and it moves.
It was I don't know, it's interesting because like, I watched it and it was, like, the introduction to the 3 witches that I didn't really expect, like, it happened the way you kind of imagine it would after, like, the action happens to get you invested. And I saw the Three Sisters, like, oh yeah, and like the nostalgia starts to kick in. You're like, oh my god, it's Holly Marie Combs. There's Shannon Doherty. They have really choppy '90s bangs. The power of three have very bad bangs. And yeah, I thought that was interesting. It's like you said they introduced the boyfriend right away in the book. So yeah, here we don't see him until after there's an investigation happening. We find out this guy is a reporter, but we don't know he's dating Holly Marie Combs at that.
Well, they do. He when he first enters, he goes, "Hi, I'm Jeremy Burns, reporter," uh, and then Piper does mention that she goes, "That's my boyfriend Jeremy" on the TV when she's talking to Piper when they're watching the news. So they
Yes.
just look the same, I
And
guess.
that's what got me confused because it was very like stock '90s white male actor. So I kind of confused him and the other detective a lot.
They do look similar, especially in this episode. Yeah. In the book, there's no Daryl Andy scene because it goes in the show. There's the scene where they're investigating the murder, and they have Andy and his partner Daryl, and they're talking about it's witchcraft. Are they witches? We gotta see what this is all about. Uh, that doesn't exist in the book.
Yeah, they're setting up some mystery elements to it to basically throw you off who the killer is going to be. I'm not spoiling anything yet, but there are some red herrings thrown about.
All right. So then after that, uh, Piper starts to try to ease Prue into the idea of moving back in. uh, she's like, maybe Phoebe's good with a rent. We could rent out that room. And
She had the subtlety of a jumbo sign, is what she had. Like she had already done it and just didn't tell her. We could have a roommate, or we could just have her sister back in. By the way, she's moving back in right now. Sorry about it. She's at the door.
and there's some immediate tension between Prue and Phoebe.
A lot of unresolved issues. Like it doesn't seem like either one of them really know what the problem is at this point. Because like Phoebe thinks it's like 6 other things, and Prue is not saying anything.
Yeah, she's like, I don't want to talk about it. No.
She's like, I'll let you know what the problem is when you guess it.
Typical woman. No, just yeah, but it was immediate tension there. Prue was mad that she thinks Phoebe may have hit on her ex fiance Roger, which who cares about him?
We're just sitting here like, dang, Phoebe, how shitty of a person are you if you're like shooting down ducks trying to figure out what you did wrong in this relationship?
So yeah, so they Piper tries to get him to like bond, but they're not having it, so they walk away. And then it cuts to the next scene, which is them in the bedroom.
Yes, I remember that. Phoebe is discussing with Piper that she basically Piper lays it out the fact that she didn't tell Prue that she was coming. And Phoebe doesn't seem too upset about it, but she's just kind of like looking like, well, would have kind of been nice for my introduction back, but it's fine. And I could see also Prue tries to mend the bridges by bringing in a blanket because it's the coldest room in the house. Little do we know the coldest room in that house is any room that Prue is in.
I always really like that moment because it tells you that Prue still really cares about Phoebe, even if she doesn't agree with her life choices or motivations, and she's always there for them. It's after that, then they go into the spirit board scene. They start to play spirit board uh, in the conservatory in the show, but in the book, it's in the living room. So they're playing the spirit board. Piper goes to get some more popcorn, and they ask if Prue will have sex with someone other than herself this year.
Yeah, just I was like, oh my god, newsflash, Prue masturbates. I didn't need to know that. Okay.
Okay, but then the planchette starts to move by itself, and Phoebe's freaking out. She's like, "Come over here, look!"
Yeah, you're wondering like how long are they let this boy cried wolf moment go on for, but they halted up pretty quickly and they start to like see some stuff, or at least Piper does. Prue doesn't seem too convinced by it.
Yeah, she's like, "It's time to let her tea."
I'm still pissed these lights are out, okay? It's this chandelier is on my nerves right now.
Right. So they're playing with the spirit board. Piper kind of sees it move. Prue doesn't see it move, and then uh, Phoebe writes out all the letters. It's like attic. It goes, and then the lights go out.
And then it starts turning into like a little horror movie, like in the '90s setup, which cracked me up because like I feel like almost all these actresses look like they would have starred in one, but I don't think any of them ever did a slasher film.
Holly Marie Combs did Doctor Giggles, which I never saw.
Oh, okay.
Um, Alyssa Milano did something, but I can't remember what it was.
Maybe something in the 80s. I know Dr. Giggles is like early 90s. I'm thinking like, mid 2000s.
Shannon Doherty did do Janet Silent Bob Strike Back, where she was in a horror movie in that
The
movie.
parody of it, yeah.
So there's that. I'll just count that.
So then lights go out. Piper's ready to leave. She's like, it's storming. There's a killer on the loose. This is creepy, crazy. I'm out of here.
Yeah, she straight up said, I'm a GTFO. Y'all can figure this out on your own.
And then Prue's like, we're fine, it's safe. Just go turn the lights back on and go to the breaker. And Phoebe's like, I'm going to the attic because that's what the spirit board told me.
Yeah, Phoebe was very much like, bossy girl boss energy. Like, I'm going upstairs and you can't stop me. She is the boss. That's true.
Who's the boss? It's Phoebe.
All right. So then Phoebe goes to the attic and she's got a flashlight. She's like, this door's locked. So she starts to walk away, and then the door opened.
Yeah, I guess they established that like the attic just was continually like jammed shut. They couldn't open it unless the three sisters were in the house now.
Maybe the spirits wanted them. So then she walks in. She's looking around. A light glows on the chest, and she's like, "What's this chest?" She opens it, finds the Book of Shadows.
And it was at this point in the episode I realized, wow, Charmed really ripped off of Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, where she finds a magic book in the attic of her grandmother's house. I'm kidding.
They do bring Elvira on Halloween's Eve. Phoebe dresses up like Elvira.
Well, now it's all connected. It all came full circle for me. It just caught my interest. Like, that happened in Elvira, I remember. But I guess it's like such an easy trope to go off of. But yeah, it's just like it popped in my mind. Plus the familiars and everything.
For a movie anywhere, either in the basement or the attic.
I do like it that the spirits knew enough about Phoebe. Like, she's the messy one that's going to end up going upstairs. So we're just going to call upon her to get this ball rolling.
Yeah, they're trying to make her the irresponsible one, but maybe it's just responsible in this case, depending on how you think about it. So she reads the spell, and the chandelier glows. The picture morphs. That they bring closer together in the picture, and then Prue and Pepper come back up, and they're like, "What are you doing in here? How'd you get in here?"
She's just like, the door was open.
Right. And I'm like, I'm just reading this Book of Shadows. It's cool. Nothing that would be.
Just dabbling in witchcraft as one does. Reading an incantation, not knowing what it could be in this bound book of flesh.
And in the book that we're reading, they said it was brown leather. That made me mad. I'm like, it's green. Where's the green leather?
Attention to detail, damn it.
Right. She's like, bring your powers to your sisters three. It's a book of witchcraft. And Prue's getting mad. She goes to the book. She's like, why did you make us into this weird spell you're doing? And she's like, no, it's gonna be great. We're gonna be witches. We're gonna get powers. It's gonna be cool. Don't worry
at
about
this
it.
point, we've established that Phoebe is very down for witchcraft powers because her life must have sucked before this. We don't know what happened in New York to bring her back, but she ain't going back.
She's finding herself. Yeah. So here's the scene that comes up in the book now that I want to talk about. Phoebe tries to go to sleep that night. She can't stop thinking about the book. She's obsessed with the book. So she leaves her bedroom, goes back to the attic where they left the book, and she just starts reading it like all night. And she comes across the trial of Melinda Ward, which is their ancestor that was like the start of all these powerful witches culminating into the charm point. So she reads the trial of Melinda Warren.
And I'm going to read an excerpt now because, yeah, I'm just going to have to go over this in depth. All right. It says, Melinda Warren left England and arrived in America in 1654 with her 2-year-old daughter Cassandra. Okay, off the bat. 1654 is way too early for Melinda to have come there. She's not this old lady. She was born in 1670. That would not work. And then her 2-year-old daughter Cassandra, her daughter is not named Cassandra. Her daughter was named Prudence. So that's an error. Carry on. She has the powers of telekinesis, freezing time, and clairvoyance. Okay, that's fine. Then it goes, Melinda Warren's powers were discovered when her lover, Hugh Montgomery, betrayed her to the townspeople. She was tried for witchcraft and everything. Okay. Her lover was not named Hugh Montgomery. It's not Hugh. It's not Hugh Montgomery. No. Uh, her lover's name was Matthew Tate from season 1, episode 9, The Witch is Back. So, Phoebe's reading the book and says Melinda Warren was thought to be descended. Her descendants have known to be Marstons, whatever, whatever. She's like, oh, Marston, that's my mom's maiden name. No, it wasn't. Patty's maiden name was Hallowell. Let's break down the family tree. First, we've got Priscilla Baxter. Priscilla Baxter was Piper's past life from Pardon My Past. She married Gordon Johnson, which was Dan's past life. They had Penny Johnson, Grams. Grams married Alan Hallowell. That's where the name comes from, and she actually changes her name. She says the women keep the name in this family, but she actually changed hers once. Must have been her true love. And then they had Patty Hallowell. Patty Hallowell was the girl's mother, and she had Prue, Piper, Phoebe, and Paige. So, all kinds of things made me mad. Yes. And I just had to say it.
Either that book got it wrong, or someone is very bad in the Hallowell family tree of keeping books.
I don't know what I was thinking, but that was all wrong. So maybe. All right, what's next? Uh, oh, this is another thing that happens in the book. So after that, she's reading the thing. Melinda Warren's ghost appears
Oh,
to Phoebe, and it's not this beautiful blonde, this really fierce-looking blonde woman from the 1600s. But this time, she appears with a ghost, and she's like this charred, rancid, like
like
skin
fresh from steak
burning
looking.
ghost.
Yeah.
What is going on? I don't want this charred Melinda.
Yeah, that didn't happen in this one. I feel like after that scene, all it really wrapped up
And
with was it showed a exterior shot of the man in the in the trenches looking at the house, and you kept thinking to yourself like, if he's planning to murder these girls, now would have been the perfect time. They don't have powers yet, and they're in a
right,
house with no power.
and maybe he wanted to make sure they got them.
Oh,
And
that
maybe
makes
they
sense.
were
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
people.
yeah.
So he's like, this should be the time they get it, but I don't know if they actually got it yet. So I'll wait.
Let me be sure. Yeah.
Oh, and Ghost of Melinda shows she's like, I don't know who the first warlock will be, but I know how they will strike. And she conscious of this like smoke cloud and shows Phoebe the Serena from the beginning dying. Shows her death. Like, how does this ghost know this? And how can she do this?
She used her afterlife DVR. Don't you know that's a thing you get?
And then another thing, Prue now meets Andy at a coffee shop in the book, which doesn't happen. This is the first time Andy appears in the book, and they have their little bonding moment, which in the show is just in the hospital. So they have that, they kind of make a date, they reconnect, and all that stuff. And that's the coffee shops.
Yes, and everyone's powers start to appear. I feel like we started with Prue first, like Prue at the museum doing an exhibit, and she finds out that her boss went over her head and took credit for an exhibit she put together, which she was thoroughly pissed about, and rightfully so. We find out she had a history with this boss too. Of apparently they had a relationship that he's still kind of holding over her and holding on to, and one thing leads to another, and Prue just decides, you know what, I'm going to quit because this relationship is toxic and I don't need to be in this environment. And she has her very much like, I'm a storm out and be my own thing moment.
Yes, that's good. And in the book, because he's flicking around his pen all the time, and the pen explodes on him and everything. She uses the powers, but in the book they describe she actually gave him that pen as a gift, and he's using it as like the symbol of his power and his authority and his ego. And she's like, I hate that pen. And gives you the
You see,
backstory
that
behind why the
context would
pen
have been nice to
explodes.
know because like we didn't know any of that. I just assumed
Right.
like she's just an up and coming sociopath that's just exploding everything around this man. Like, I get that you're mad, but like, okay, you stained his shirt and then you almost blinded him with the pen ink.
And that's funny is because she uses her powers without even realizing it, and that's what's really interesting about it. She's like, I hate that pen. I'm leaving, and it explodes. Uh, and then it goes up to the other scene where with the tie, she's like, I'm out of the room, but she's choking him with the tie. In the book, when he's choking, she turns around, she sees him choking, and she comes and actually saves his life. She's like, "Oh God, you're dying! I'm gonna find the
Yeah,
sisters
in the
now."
TV show, she goes in with the tie like she's walking away. But like you tell she didn't know that that happened. But like the tie starts to tighten up on him. You're like, Jesus Christ! Like her her powerful aura is psycho. She almost killed this guy. I guess like they probably excluded that scene of her helping him. I guess to establish that she's done with this relationship.
I feel like that was really weird to have to go back and save him. But it's funny in the book, she saves him. She's like, she goes on that path. He's like, "I knew you still wanted me." That's what he says to her. I'm like, "Ew,
Yeah, it could be more
what a
symbolic.
creeper."
Like this is me cutting ties.
She's like, "Goodbye, Roger." So then the next scene is Piper in the kitchen. You want to talk about that?
Yes, Piper. She is preparing her dish for her boss, her chef boss, the cake boss. Yeah, a man with a very interesting accent. I'll say that. Like it could be Italian. It could be anywhere. It's one of those, like the Kingdom in the Princess Diaries, where it's just make believe Europe town. So they could have any accent. But he's the sauce, and like she has run out of time. She didn't get to add her wine, which I guess is the secret ingredient for her refried beans that she's cooking. And she, he dips the little noodle in it. I think it's a noodle, and like he's about to put it in his mouth, and she's like flipping out, and she suddenly realizes she froze time, and it's like fiercely looking like, ooh, her powers just kicked in. Like that is one of the best powers. Her and Prue have the best ones. I will say that.
Active
And
power. Yeah.
she was fully like took advantage of the moment and finished her recipe, which was I guess a drop of wine on the on the noodle made all the difference.
C'est magnifique.
And we learn Chef Moore's first name is Sheridan.
Oh,
I was like, okay, interesting.
they bothered to give a character a first name who probably never appears again in this show. He falls off the face of the earth.
And then this is different because she starts riding her bike in the book, but her permission doesn't come yet. She actually goes to a wicker shop. The lady's like, "Blessed be." She's like, "What? What's that mean?" um, so I think it's a picture of the chick from the craft in the shop there.
Yes. Okay.
So she's in this wicker shop. She's looking around at books. Like, let's look about warlocks because she warned me about warlocks. What's this say? And then in the corner right, she sees Angie appear. And she's like, "Oh, that's the Angie guy. Oh, who is he? I'm the hired home to see me in the wicker shop." And Andy ends up finding her. He's like, "Phoebe, how funny! I saw Prue earlier today, and I run into you." But he goes to like this weird, like he's like picks up this anime in the shop. He's like, "Yeah, I'm researching killer." He's like, "Yeah," and he's like looking at it, and Phoebe is like freaking out because Andy looks like this trance. He's like acting out, stabbing. It looks like he's actually gonna stab Phoebe.
Establishing him as a red herring or something
Right.
like that. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we didn't get that in the show. She's just riding her bike, and then she has the power of foresight, and she sees that these rollerbladers are going to roll in front of a car in roll in front of a car coming down the street. And I have to say, like, Phoebe really got the short end of the stick as far as powers go here. Like, Prue gets to be Carrie, Phoebe gets to be the Time Lord and stop time, and not Phoebe, but Piper does. She gets to stop time, and Phoebe is that so Raven. That's her power. She gets to see the future sometimes. But yeah, she stops the car and she throws herself in front of the rollerbladers, and the car swerves out of the way, and she saves them. And she probably like hurt something or sprained something because it did not look comfortable the way she landed. That poor stunt woman. That was different in the book, wasn't it? You were telling me that.
Right. Well, in the unaired pilot, uh, Lori Rom, who played Phoebe, she actually like crashed right into the car. She like put herself over, and she like landed up like on the hood and then off. So they didn't do that in the pilot.
Is this the reason why she didn't play Phoebe? Like was she maimed by the car?
She left for personal reasons. Her church did not approve of her playing a witch, so I have to resign.
Ah, okay. She's like, no more throwing me in front of cars. I leave too.
Like, not
Yeah, that's so bittersweet that she's like obsessed with it and she doesn't have anything. Or also, her powers are kind of lame.
Oh yeah. So now she goes and she has a moment with Prue at the bar. And this scene pretty much goes out like in the show, so you can talk about this.
Yes, Prue is in denial that she has any kind of powers, and Phoebe's insisting upon the fact that there are powers brewing and there's magic afoot. And Prue just says, "No, there is not." And she's like, "Now, where is that cream?" And the cream slides across the counter at her with no one pushing it. And she then looks at the cream, and the cream goes inside of her coffee, which doesn't make sense as far as like the universe goes and what we know their powers are, but we're going to let it slide for now. And Phoebe basically has her haha moment looking at her, and Prue has to eat crow and accept the fact that there is magic afoot here.
Yes, yes, yeah. Telematerialization is the name of that power, and Prue never uses that again.
It looked cool. I feel like that was the only motivating factor to have that in there.
Definitely visual appeal.
Some poor stunt guy drilled a hole in the bottom of that cup in that table, and they were going to fill it up with cream, damn it.
Right. So now Prue runs into Andy at the hospital. And they have a little bit of their chit chat again. But this time Piper comes in with Jeremy, and all four of them are kind of talking and meeting, saying, "Hi, how are you?" And then Prue tells Piper, "Yes, I'll take care of Phoebe. I got this." And she's like, "Oh, great. I'm going to go on my date with Jeremy."
Now, maybe I wasn't paying attention. Is Andy the same detective from the beginning with Hot Detective?
You mean Daryl?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. See, maybe that's what happened. He changed his shirt, and I didn't recognize him when he saw Phoebe, or he saw Prue later in the episode. Okay, that makes sense now. I was paying attention, I swear.
Right.
But I will say we didn't see any of Jeremy at all in the TV show. Like there was very little of him featured.
He's not a very memorable actor, unfortunately.
Fun thing about that actor is he had to say bitch a lot, right? The character did.
Oh yeah.
But that actor had a problem saying bitch on screen. I don't know what
Aw.
it was, so they had somebody else dub that word every time he had to say it.
They dubbed the bitch in. I love that. What a gentleman.
Yeah.
I'm not going to call Alyssa Milano a bitch. So yes, the girls, Phoebe and Prue, after they had their little like dinner at the restaurant or whatever the shop they were at, they go into a pharmacy, and they're walking through an aisle, and they're trying to establish what it is that triggers Prue's powers. And Phoebe figures out that every time she mentions Roger, was his name?
Roger.
Right. She mentioned Roger, Prue loses her shit with her powers, and something flies off the shelf. And she's trying to find something for, I believe, a headache.
Right.
She's got a migraine from, powers. And she mentions Rogers, and headache pills just fly into her hand. Yes. And I was just thinking of it, like, I was watching this, and like, she's like, what did she bring up? She brought their dad, right?
She brought up Dad too.
Yeah, and then she just like she empties the shelf onto the floor. I kept thinking to myself, like, this scene's not going to end with them walking out and not picking that up, right? It's not going to. They're gonna use the powers and force it all back on, right? No, they just left it there. You trifling witches!
They're not that advanced yet. They're like toddlers with magic.
Those poor shelf stalkers have to go and put those back. I kept thinking to myself, like, if her powers are triggered by anger, bring up 90210. She'll create an earthquake. She'll knock a building down.
So then we have Piper in the car with Jeremy.
This scene got wild. Was it as dirty in the book as it was in the show?
Yeah.
Because like he opens up the fortune cookie and it says, "Oh, it says I'm gonna be on top." I'm like, "Excuse me, sir. We're in the backseat of a car." And like, and she was just like, "Let me see that." And had to examine it for herself. I was like, okay, you shite.
Let's go to the boning building.
Yeah, let's go to the old bone building. I'm like, Piper, you have to see where this is going.
And yeah, it's pretty much identical to what happened in the book. The only thing that's different is that she admits wholeheartedly about her powers. She tells Jeremy, she's like, Phoebe thinks we have magical powers, and something weird happened to me. I froze the chef, and Prue thinks she can move things with her mind. It's like she was spilling all of it out to him, and I'm like, that is not wise, and that's totally not like her. I'm like, what are you doing, girl?
Because, like, mind you, we don't know anything about Jeremy other than his first name. Like, his last name could be friggin' Van Helsing, and she wouldn't get the hint.
His last name is Burns, but I get you. So they get to the building, and she's like, I don't want to go in there, but okay. Like, yeah, she's like, really trusting.
What a romantic date. Let's go to an abandoned warehouse that has a man-powered elevator that you have to lift yourself. So he corners her in the elevator and pulls out the dagger, familiar dagger from the beginning of the television show. And she's there thinking like, oh my God, what the hell's going on? And he does a weird candle hand trick where wicks come out of his fingertips and he has candles because he stole that witch's powers after murdering her. Like that's what he does. And they establish that demons absorb power. He's a demon, I imagine, right? Or a warlock. Okay, so warlock, they can absorb powers.
Yes.
Oh, right. That's what Prue and Phoebe were talking about.
So basically, a warlock is like an evil witch, and they can be male or female, just like a witch can be. Good witch can be male or female, and they just like to do bad things and become more powerful, and they do that by stealing the powers of other witches and killing them. And yeah, that's kind
Okay,
of
so
their
a
thing.
warlock will find a witch and then just like kill her and like Shang Tsung her powers out of her.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay, that works. That works. That checks. So yeah, he's trying to like warlock kill her so that he can absorb her powers and like sponge out her time freezing spell, which is a good one. I have to say, like that's a power to take if you're gonna kill any of them. And he does not succeed because she pauses right before he's about to stab her, and she has to find a way out. The elevator has not like elevated all the way to the top yet. I couldn't tell if he was going to the they're on the second story, I imagine, at this point. I wasn't paying
They were
attention
like
to that.
halfway between floors.
Yes. So like at the halfway point, and she starts climbing up the grate so that she can get to the other floor. And mind you, had this been me, I would have like tied his shoelaces together while time was frozen or pulled down his pants or something. But that's just me. But yeah, she sneaks out, and of course, time unfreezes because her power breaks because she's scared, I imagine. And he grabs her leg, and we're like, "Oh my God, he's gonna get her! He's gonna get her!" And she finds a handy 2x4 that happens to be in the abandoned building, and just baps him right in the face.
The reason Jeremy had to reveal his identity in the book was because Piper asked. He says, "What was it?" Oh, she's like, "I never told you Andy was a detective." When in the show, she goes, "I never told you Phoebe was home." Uh, but because of the way that things played out in the book, Jeremy already met Phoebe, he already met Andy, he already met all these things, and it was just a weird decision, I think, for the book. It was much more effective in the show, but
The book wrote itself into a corner there, like it was already set up pretty well.
and there is no hot cop Daryl in the book.
Oh.
Uh, he wasn't actually in the unaired pilot either. He was only in the reshoots. So.
Well, it was an addition I was happy with. I'll say
Oh
that.
yeah, we love Daryl. He's great.
Yeah, where they exposed Jeremy as the killer, which I have to say was set up pretty well as far as it goes. It kept leaning more towards it being Andy, and he was kind of a creep near the beginning of the episode with the witchcraft stuff and picking up all the artifacts in the beginning in that woman's apartment and knowing way too much.
The book too, when they made it look like he was gonna stab Phoebe in the Wicca shop. I mean, that was crazy.
But yeah, Jeremy, I guess, is like Murder She Wrote fashion, where it's the guy you saw like 3 times and then forgot about. Now they're the killer. Oh, it's you.
Piper runs back to the manor. She's like, "Ah!"
Yeah. Barrels in like a Muppet, locking the doors.
She's like, "Did I tell you in the book how to get rid of a warlock?" And then they like go do a spell, which to get rid of a lover type of thing.
Oh, right. That's right. Yeah. So yeah, they rush upstairs to do that little spell, and they have the Pillsbury Doughboy voodoo doll that they put the rose in, and they put that inside like their little metal pot, and they throw in some candles, and it creates dry ice, and the spell is happening, and then suddenly, they turn Jeremy into a thorn bush.
Yeah. He's like, "Ah, I'm on this chain fence and it hurts."
He's a pincushion, and he is pissed.
Yes. So that's when, and then Phoebe gets a premonition of him pissed and coming, and they try to get out of the house. And then that's when Prue finds him at the door.
Was just like, how far was that yard from them? Because like that was really quick.
He maybe got super speed from a witch or something.
They really like took their time going down the stairs.
Right.
How many stairs are in that house?
Yeah, that was real quick.
But yeah, like he's out at the door and they attack them. Phoebe backs away and just starts whooping his ass by throwing him against the pillar.
Prue.
Prue. Sorry. too many P's.
There are a lot, I know.
I was gonna go off just going by the actress's name. I felt like that'd be easier for me, but I really wanted to seem like I knew what I was talking about. So yeah, Prue starts throwing him against the pillar and starts really beating his ass. And he's like talking a lot of crap to them. They eventually realize like this isn't gonna work. So they go and barricade themselves inside the attic. And then he's starting to throw himself through the door and starting to like move stuff with his mind to get stuff going as they barricade the shelves. And there's I believe a ski in the doorknob. Like it just all starts flying out and he barrels in and he's like throwing fire magic at them with his candle hands and they're surrounded in a circle and we think, this is it. They're going to die. And suddenly the power of three, fucking power of three, they all start chanting and he's talking over them, typical man does. And they keep going undeterred and they explode him and he's dead. And I was happy with that.
Right. It does the trick.
I was expecting like a fireball or something. I feel like that was someone's powers in the later seasons.
Sure.
But like, yeah, it was a good build up and I was satisfied with the ending. And I had to say it ended on a nice little note of like sisterhood and reforged bonds, even though I have a feeling Phoebe and Prue still have a lot to talk about because I don't think either one of them know what they're mad about at this point anymore.
Yeah, now you're excited. Now you can watch all of season 1 and see what happens. Pretty good. Kit never appears in the book, except for that one scene. So Kit was only in the beginning with the blonde Serena chick, but never came to those sisters at all in the book.
The cat?
Yeah.
Oh.
And in the show, it was everywhere, following him around.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, it doesn't become their familiar because I can't remember there being a cat in the later seasons I watched.
Huh. Kit is in this season, quite a bit in season 1, a little bit in season 2, not as much, and then a little bit in season 3. After season 3,
he goes into the attic and never comes back down.
You don't see Kit again until season 5, episode 18, Cat House, and they explain where Kit went and why they were gone.
It's like me growing up. I had a cat that lived inside the pool table, and it just came out to get food. It's probably one of those kind of situations.
Yeah,
similar. Yeah,
I was like, I just gotta do my own thing for a while.
The cat's off in Narnia, having its time of its life.
But yeah, it's a good thing for now. Yeah, you didn't arrest the cat. That's good for watching those later seasons. Cool. All right, so that's the episode, pretty much. Any final thoughts?
I'd say I can understand why the show got picked up for as many seasons as it did. Like, it did hold my gaze. It held up for the most part. Like, the special effects were a bit questionable, but that's to be expected from something that came out in like the late 90s.
In 1998, yeah.
It was definitely an Aaron Spelling joint, but not as cheesy as most of the other stuff that he's done. Like I followed a lot of Aaron Spelling work, and this one's probably one of the better pilots I have seen, and definitely one of the best ideas that was greenlit. I can understand the fandom for the most part. I'll probably have to watch a little more to get more invested, but I could see why it's got, as devoted a following as it does. Yeah, I was intrigued. I think it was very fun. And I only have watched the new Charmed. I've watched some of the seasons of that, and that one held me. And I could see why people are as obsessed with the old one as they are. So yeah, I think it was really fun, and I'm happy I finally got to watch the pilot.
I'm glad. Yeah, I think I was always drawn to the magic as a kid. I always kind of like the mystical stuff, but I think the characterizations and the family dynamic is what really kept me going, and that's one of the main mantras anyway. Witches, sisters happen to be witches instead of witches happen to be sisters.
Yeah, there was like really good family dynamic happening there, which I thought was quite refreshing as far as 90s television goes. Like, there was a lot of good girl tension, and a lot of it wasn't centered around being frustrated with the men they were dating. It was more like just day-to-day life kind of stuff. So I like that. Like, it didn't have that tropey, soap opera-y aspect of like female driven television. So yeah, I like that. It was very refreshing.
Yeah. I do have a segment that I'm adding to these books called "Put That in My Canonical Hat."
Okay.
Because it's play on words. The words of the witches. There's canon, and then there's canonical hat, which is used for witches. So I thought it'd be good to mix them together. But pretty much, it's discussing whether this book would be canon, and obviously, since a novelization of the first episode, Yeah, for the most part, it is going to be canon. It makes sense, except for those triggers with that Melinda Warren scene that bothered me. That didn't make sense with the rest. Other than that, uh, it's pretty close, and it definitely fits in there.
And yeah, like that weird, Jeremy not knowing Andy thing.
Right.
Yeah, that made
A
better
few little
sense than her.
quirks. Hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Now, normally we would do a rhyme time where we read some of the spells. Do you want to read some spells?
Okay.
uh,
Nothing's gonna happen, right? I feel like we're good. We didn't light any candles. There's no seance lit around this room, as far as people know.
no, not yet.
I don't want to summon a
Not
spirit to your
yet.
house.
Uh, well, I'll just because there's quite a few episodes in this first episode, and because they do exist in this show, I'm not going to spend too much time on them. But I'll read the Dominus Trinus, which is the one that awakened their powers. Even there's a
Okay.
little bit on the book there. So, hear now the words of the witches, where our title comes from. Yes, the secrets we hid in the night. The oldest of gods are invoked here. The great work of magic is sought. In this night and in this hour, I call upon the ancient power. Bring your powers, we sisters three. We want the power. Give us the power. So yeah, good magic. In future episodes, we're going to be reading every spell that's in the book, but not today.
I was gonna do a bit like, oh my god, my laptop just turned off. No.
Okay, and then I have a game for you.
Yes.
It's something called Grimoire Game. That's funny because I love alliteration. Uh, because I knew you back when I was playing childhood games like this. This is a game called Lemon. Do you know what that is?
I don't know what lemon is. What is
This
it?
this is a game I used to play all the time as a kid, and you pretty much we'll go through it. We'll pick some things, and you make sentences with them. So we'll make fun sentences.
Oh, okay. I feel like I remember this. It's like triggering like an old childhood memory. Like it's like something we used to do like back in school.
Right.
School.
It's like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like the horny little preteen where uh
Like when you play like MASH or like the make the house and who you're gonna marry and all that kind of fun stuff.
it's kind of like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So I have a little bit of twist on it because it's charmed and
Of
stuff. So
course.
I added some things. So I'm going to ask you to give me 5 charmed characters.
Okay. Charm characters. I'm just gonna go off the top of my head. I'm gonna say Phoebe, Piper, Prue, Leo. I have one more. Pick a good one. Grams.
All right.
Useless grams.
Okay. Now pick 5 non-charmed, like fictional characters.
Okay, from any universe.
Anything. So.
Okay, I'm gonna say Spider-Man, um, Wolverine, Scarlet Witch. I'm going Marvel for some reason. Hulk, and how many more do I have? That was
One.
one more. Okay, our last one will be Professor X.
Okay. Things you can do with a lemon.
Squeeze. I need 5 of those.
Yeah.
Okay, juice, peel, throw, and smash.
Okay. Parts of the body.
Okay, navel, armpit, uh I can't boob.
Just one.
Just one boob. Yes, just one boob. One breast. Like Amazon. Yes, yes, yes. And then how many do we have left?
2.
2. Okay. Let's do an eye and the left foot.
Okay. Magical items.
Okay. A wand, cauldron, familiar, Magical items. A talisman. And one more?
One more.
Okay. What's a magical spell book? Easy. There we go. Should be right tip of my tongue.
Okay. And then things you say after midnight.
After midnight. Okay. Let's see. Well, let's say good night for one.
Sure.
See you next Tuesday. Was it good for you too? It's okay. It happens a lot to a lot of people. Not now. I have a headache.
Okay. All right. So now we can see how these come together.
Oh boy. What kind of weird fan fiction / thing did I write?
All right. So number one, we have grams.
Oh no.
Juice. Grams juicing Wolverine boob. Holding a wand and saying goodnight.
I would watch that. I at least would. I would page through that deviant art, that story.
That would be interesting.
I would approach it with an open eye, but I probably wouldn't finish it.
Yes. Now we have Piper throwing Spider-Man's eye into a cauldron and saying, "See you next Tuesday."
To get the other eye.
We have Leo smashing Professor X's navel
Oh.
with his familiar and saying, "Was it good for you too?"
Now we have reached that / fiction.
That is it. That's the one. Winner. Yeah, Phoebe squeezing the Hulk's left foot, holding a talisman, and saying, "It's okay, it happens to the black people."
Aw.
And then lastly, we have Prue peeling Scarlet Witch's armpit
Gross.
with the spell book, saying, "I know, yeah,
Which is appropriate for this show. She did have a headache.
well, that's what's fun. That was the game for the day." And then we have another segment. It's tips for future wet letters, which is the moral lesson or advice that we've learned from today.
Yes. I have to say, what I learned from today's episode is if your boyfriend killer invites you to a warehouse after saying he wants to get it on with you inside of a cab from a fortune cookie, don't do it. Don't go to that warehouse. Just say you have a headache.
It's good advice. Take note of your surroundings.
Absolutely. That's the words I was thinking of. But yeah. If you think your boyfriend's a killer, he probably is.
Yeah.
And don't confess to him that you have powers. Also, we never established how did he know that other witch, because she seemed like she knew him too.
Right. Maybe this was his side piece. He's going after Piper for 6 months, still romancing other witches on the side.
Yeah, I don't like it. That's why he got killed.
Yeah. So I think we did the plan. That's cool. Well, this was fun. I'm glad you came on. Real quick, what's your favorite sister?
My favorite sister has to be Prue.
Yeah, mine too. I love Prue.
No one does ice cold like Shannon Doherty, especially in this episode. Like that when she first met Phoebe again for the first time in so long, you're like, ooh, this is so frosty and so real.
Yeah, I love that. Favorite
episode? I really liked the one where, okay, it's so stupid. It's not actually a Prue episode. It's a Paige episode. Right. The one where I feel like it's like a few episodes after they introduced her and her boobs start to grow.
Hell has no fury. That's 4 episode 3. That's such a good episode. I love it.
I like that
I mean,
one. It's
it's
so
like
silly.
also it's really dramatic. That's also one where Piper cries over Prue's grave, and it makes me cry so hard. Okay, and favorite season. I know
Favorite
it's hard.
season. I really like season 2 because that's when I got introduced.
Okay, cool. So where can we find you?
You can find me at James with a Y, Jaymes Mansfield at YouTube or Instagram. Subscribe to my YouTube channel if you're interested in wigs or cosplay or anything fun like that.
YouTube superstar.
Yes, I like to think so.
You can find this podcast on social media on Facebook, Words of the Witches, a Charmed podcast. We're on Instagram at Words of the Witches. And our email is wordsofwitchespod@gmail.com. So shoot us some questions, comments, concerns. And we hope to see you soon. Until next time. Bye, everyone.
Ooh, bye.